Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it. Great to be back in the state of Ohio. Great to be here at Ohio State. As you know, I spent 5 years in Cleveland, and of many things I learned, it's the passion for the state. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for the high school coaches, the college coaches in the state, and the way that the passion for the fans have for the game of football. And I know how much you love football, how much you respect the game. Hall of Fame, in this state. It's right down the road from us in Cleveland, where I live in Brecksville. And it's just really an honor to be asked to speak here in Ohio to this group that I really respect. I've come to know, many of you are people that work at your schools during my time at the Browns. And I have so much respect for Coach Meyer, the job that he does, here at the university. We both were fortunate to win a national championship and Super Bowl titles a couple of years ago. His staff, Coach Wilson, Coach Shiano. Coach Shiano's a friend of mine for a long time. It seemed like there was one year we went down and drafted his entire secondary. This guy is still playing for us, or we'll look into Tennessee now. But he's turned out so many great players, so many great people in that program. So it's really, when they asked, I was really honored to accept it and be here. I'm not gonna, there's a great staff here. I know that they'll talk to you about some of the X's and O's and schemes and things that they're doing. So I'll skip over that. And, just try to talk a little bit about coaching and sort of overall point of view, how I look at things and what I've learned. Certainly learned a lot from the people that I've worked under. Unfortunately, one of the people that I spent a lot of time as a kid learning from passed away yesterday. That's Wayne Harden, former head coach of Navy, Temple, College Hall of Famer, as are the people here that Coach has introduced. I still have great respect for Coach Harden played for Ames Alonzo Stag, and coach of my dad. I worked with him, or I watched him work with my dad for many years and during his career at Temple. I think one of the lessons that I learned from him, one of the many lessons I learned from him in coaching is number one, be yourself. Number two, go with what you believe in. Just because somebody else hasn't done it, or just because it's not popular, if you believe in it and you have a conviction and it's the way you want your team to be, then do it. That's, stepping away from what the norm is, doing things that are a little bit outside the box, being aggressive as a coach to develop your team, very important. And certainly what he did at the Naval Academy, recruiting not only good players, but great people, Joe Bellino, Roger Staubach, guys like that. So those are great lessons for me. And seeing Coach Bruce here, Coach Holtz, Coach Harden, people from that era, I never lose respect for the way what they did for the game, what they did for us, how they made this game such a great opportunity for all of us. And we love very much what we're doing. We all got into football because we love the game. Nobody got into it to be the head coach at Ohio State or be a head coach of the Patriots or to be playing in the NFL when you're 6, 7, 8 years old. You play football because you love to play football, and ultimately you start coaching football because you love to coach football. That's what we all have in common. That's our love for the game, our respect for the game, and honestly, that's why we're all here tonight. And again, a big thanks to Coach Meyer, his staff, and Ohio State University for giving us this opportunity to share ideas together and learn from each other. And, have the opportunity to have this interaction. Great game of football. So, kind of a little bit about what Coach Meyer, what he just said in terms of building a team. I mean, first of all, the way I see a football staff being put together is really it's a group of head coaches. The head coach is the head coach, and he has certain restrictions in the program that he's running, whether it's academic, salary cap, players that are in that district, budget constraints, whatever they happen to be. We all have certain restrictions as a head coach in the program that we develop. You have to follow certain guidelines, certain boundaries. And then the coaches below that, the coordinators, are really head coaches of their respective side of the ball: offense, defense, special teams. Position coaches are really head coaches of the positions that they coach, that group of players: running backs, linebackers, defensive backs, whoever it is. And even down to the GAs and so forth that have their areas of responsibility, whether that's scout team or film breakdown or whatever it happens to be. So, when I talk about head coach, again, I'm really talking to the entire staff, and that's the way I try to approach it with our staff, is that each of our coaches are the head coach of an area that they're responsible for. They have certain guidelines that they have to follow, whether that's the coordinator's final decision on play calling or techniques of the play, whatever it happens to be, whether it's the guidelines that I set for them. But on the other hand, there's also a lot of latitude in the way that they coach their players, the way they organize their meetings, the way that they interact with the people that they're responsible for. And so I think the most important thing as a head coach is to, number one, make sure that everybody's on the same page and everybody understands what you want them to do and how you want it done. And that's not to say that everything has to be rigid, but I think there have to be guidelines. And the clearer those are, the better that just talk about the head coach. If you want to install your philosophy, your style of play, your standards, then those have to be done forcefully. They have to be done without too much deviation. And there are going to be certain things that we all can live with. There are some things that I can live with that you can't, vice versa. But ultimately, if it's your program, again, whether it's you as the head coach, you as a coordinator, you as a position coach, you have to decide what you can and can't live with. What you can't live with, then it's got to be conformed to. What you can live with, then, maybe there's some acceptance and variation and latitude in those areas. So what I've tried to do is, with our coaching staff, to make explicit and clear the things that are not going to be compromised, the foundation of our program, the foundation of the way that we're going to coach the team, what the expectations are, and what will not be tolerated. And then, there are other things that we'll have to deal with as we move through the year, move through the experience that we're involved with. And so, for me, some of those would be, let's say on the field, things like turnovers, ball security. That's a standard for us. Mistakes that cause your team to lose, such as penalties that are unforced penalties, offsides, can't get the snap count, the formation right, can't get 11 guys on the field, can't get the right 11 guys on the field. Those kind of things, which kind of leads to my number one thing would be, the first thing I tell our staff, the first thing I tell our team is, we can't win until we keep from losing. So until we are able to operate as a team to not lose the game, turnovers, penalties, mistakes that give up big plays, block kicks, long touchdowns, things like that, strip sacks on the quarterback because we don't know what to do, can't block the right people, then we really don't have a chance to win. And as I tell our players every year, multiple times, so there's no misunderstanding about this, we win because of our players. Players win football games. Good players can't overcome bad coaching. So if we don't give our players an opportunity to compete, if we don't give them a good plan, a good fundamental base to play with, a good opportunity to communicate and be able to execute whatever the play is in game kick situations, if we don't prepare them to do that and give them the opportunity to do that, then eventually that's going to catch up to us. We're not going to be able to win against good competitive teams that do that. So the number one thing for me would be, we can't win until we can keep from losing. Until we can eliminate unforced errors, mistakes in basic fundamental execution, then, the rest of it really it's not going to matter. So every player that touches the ball for our team, whether that's the center, the quarterback, a running back, a receiver, a punter, a kicker, a long snapper, a defender that intercepts it, a defender that scoops up a loose ball and a fumble, anybody that touches the ball in any capacity, the number one thing that they have to is that the entire fortunes of our team, the organization, and everybody involved with the New England Patriots, their fortunes all rest on what that person does when the ball's in his possession. How securely they possess it, the decisions they make with it. For example, the quarterback, the center, number one, just getting the ball properly to whoever it's supposed to go to. Quarterback offensively, sent holders, kickers in the kicking game. The quarterback properly delivering the ball to whoever he's going to give it to. Running backs, receivers, making decisions with the ball, so that at all costs, when all is said and done, when the final results are in, the most important thing that we do is take care of the football. And so that's number one. It's drilled in from day one. From a practice standpoint, because of the importance of that and the uncompromising position of giving the ball away, turning it over. Many of our practice techniques are structured toward making ball handling more difficult in practice than what it is in the game. So, things like wet balls and other things that are distracting to ball handling, throwing stuff at punt returners when they're trying to catch punts, throwing bags at them, throwing shields at them, trying to distract them. Same thing with the receivers, catching balls with, guys hanging all over them, things like that. It all comes back to ball security. It all comes back to taking care of the ball. So that would be an example of something that's very important, that's not going to be tolerated. If we can't take care of the ball, then simply you're not going to get the ball. You're not going to give the ball to a player who can't take care of it. And that's, we preach it, we drill it, and ultimately, I'm going to play the players that give us a good level of confidence with that. So, going back to kind of a head coach setting a philosophy, whatever the criteria is that you believe in, whatever you feel like is the type of team that you want to have, and whatever the most important things are to you, and I'm not talking about there's 75 important things, there are 75 important things, probably 575 of them. But at some point, something's got to be one, something's got to be two, something's got to be three, something's got to be four, and that has to be communicated to your staff, that has to be communicated to the players, and for you to have the kind of team that you want to have, then ultimately you're going to have to see those results on the field. So, another example of that type of thing would be, for us, would be preparation. So, before I go to preparation, let's start with this. Players, look, we all have, when you look at any good team, and whether it's on a professional level, whether it's on a college level, whether it's on a high school level, you look at any good team, you're going to probably find, 3, 4, 5, if you're lucky, might be 1 or 2, but you're going to find a small group of very good players. There's no college in the country that's going to have 11 number 1 draft choices. There's no NFL team that's going to have 11 All-Pros. There's not a high school team that's going to have 2/3 of the all-region state team is going to come from one. So it just doesn't. That's just too much. So they're going to have a handful, whatever it is, 2, 3, 4, 5 really good players, and then you're going to have another group of players that, let's say, could play for anybody at your competitive level, high school, college, pro, guys that, on our team that would start for any team, let's say 10 of those players. And then you have the rest of your team. And so I would say, look, certainly the players at the top are important. I'm not trying to minimize that. I 100% agree with Coach Meyer in terms of finding players that you want to coach, not just their skills, but also their personal characteristics, their work ethic, the importance of football, their teamwork, and communication and willingness to do what the team needs. But beyond that, the remainder of what's called the last 2/3 or 3/4 of your team, whatever that number is, but it's a high number, it's certainly over half. Those players are, to a degree, role players. They are not the top players, but they're critical to the success of your team. Then you have to make a decision as to which ones you play, which ones you train, and which ones fit your system. Nate Edner, the Coach Meyer mentioned, reference, is a great example of a player. Came to Ohio State, walked on the football team, was drafted into the NFL. We drafted him onto the Patriots, and he never played it down defensively for Ohio State. So, what does that say? I mean, certainly he's there an NFL career for a player that doesn't play? I'm going to talk about a specialist now who doesn't play on offense or defense. Well, there is, and Nate's come in and proved that and showed that to not only our team, but the entire league recognizes that as well. So again, there are role players on your team. There are role players that you need for your team to be successful. Which guys are they going to be? Which guys are they going to be? And for me, tough, smart, dependable. All right, that's where I would start with that group. Tough, mentally and physically. Smart, not football smart. Good decisions, good football understanding, high football IQ, dependable, critical situations. You can count on those players to perform under pressure. You can count on those players to execute what you want to execute as a team. And that's what I would look for in players. And the tougher the game, the more critical the game, the more important the game, the more important the situation, the more I want the tough, smart, dependable player in the game, in the eye of the storm, making a decision that needs to be made for us to win. So, again, sure, we all want great players. We all want as many as we can get. But in the end, there's a cap on that. I don't care where you are, what program you're in. We all have some good ones, maybe a few more than others here or there, but in the end, that's the way most teams are comprised. It's the bulk of the rest of the players that I would say you need to decide based on your scheme, based on your, the style of play that you want to be. Look, if you want to be a fast team, then put fast players out there. You might be giving up something else. You want to be a tough team? Put some tough players out there. You might be giving up something else. You might be giving up speed. You might be giving up some athleticism. If the guy's got all of it, then that's not really a conversation. But the majority of your team won't have that from a competitive standpoint relative to the rest of your schedule. So decide what players you want on your team. Decide what type of team you want to have. All right? And then those are the players that you need to develop for your scheme and your team to be successful. But that has to be defined. That's a key decision for the head coach to make. It might be a key decision for the offensive or defensive coordinator to make. It might be a key decision for the position coach to make based on whatever the guidelines are from the head coach and the coordinators and the people above them. But again, that really goes for all of us. Charting a course, staying on it, and again, being definitive so that the players know or your assistant coaches know this is what is demanded, this is what will not be tolerated, and these other things that really may not be good enough, we're going to continue to work to improve them, and that's how we're going to get better as a football team. One of the things, the great things about football, which isn't for everybody, but for me, it's a critical part of football is preparation. And so, in our sport, unlike most other sports, we play once a week. So, say in the NFL, we have 16 regular season games. All right, that's 16 opportunities to operate as a team in competitive situations. But we have another, let's call it 100 practices, counting our playoff games and so forth, maybe 80 practices in a regular season. Those are 80 opportunities on the practice field that we have to get better as a football team. Again, our competition with the other NFL teams, the other teams in our division, the other teams in our conference, isn't just on Sunday. It's Monday through Saturday. It's how can we use our time, how can we prepare, correct, train, rest, recover, all those things. How can we do those better than our opponents competitively day after day after day after day after day, and then the competition comes on Sunday. So it's really about the process. I've always tried to create a process that I feel is at a championship level. So whether that's the training department, the equipment department, the video department, the tight ends coach, the strength and conditioning program, whatever it is, I try to shoot for the top on that. Like I want to have the best of those in whatever level I'm coaching. National Football League, I want to be the best in every area. I don't want to just rely on one thing, our passing statistics or our turnover ratio or whatever it is. That's great. All that stuff's important. I'm not saying that. But in the end, as an organization, I want to be competitive at every spot. competitive on the field, player-wise, competitive off the field, with the support staff, and expect and demand those people to do the type of job that would be a championship quality type of job for the level of responsibility that they have. So that's an organizational thing. I think that, in my case, has to be set by the head coach, and it has to be followed through. That we're not coming in marking off days on the calendar. We're not coming in and just showing up. Every day is an achievement day. So going back to our team, let's call it 80 practices for us, 16 regular season games, and then when you start piling on top of that, meetings, walkthroughs, training sessions, and so forth. I mean, you have let's call it a couple hundred opportunities, maybe more than that, a couple hundred opportunities to improve individually, to improve as a football team. The improvement can't just come in game situations on Sunday. It won't be enough. It won't be close to being enough. So therefore, all the rest of it comes under one thing, basically, preparation, right? So preparation is the process. Preparation is measured by our improvement on whether it's a period, a meeting, a walkthrough, a practice, part of a practice, an entire practice. But those are all measured daily in terms of how do we improve, how do we get individually better, how do we collectively get better, and we have to take every single day, we have to take that approach every single day in order to meet our goals on Sunday. It's not just going to happen on Sunday when we walk into the stadium and flip the switch on in the locker room. So in terms of improvement, what I've found is there are really 4 things that a player needs to do. It really goes for everybody. It's not just players, assistant coaches, it goes for the head coach. When I walk in the office every day, it's really the same thing. Number one is do your job. And, I know that term gets kind of tossed around a little bit. For me, it's not really do your job, it's do your job well. Again, we're not getting paid to show up, we're getting paid to perform at a high level professionally. All right, so do your job well. Know what your responsibility is. Be prepared to do it. In other words, if I'm the tight end coach, then I should know more about the tight ends than everybody else on the staff. If I'm the linebacker coach, then I should know more about our linebackers than anybody else on the staff. Know them personally, know their strengths and weaknesses, know their coaching points, know what one guy can handle, what another guy can't. Then I'm the head coach of that position. I'm the head coach of that area, and that's the area that I want to excel in, is improving those players. So to me, if your players don't improve, so that's speaking as the head coach, it's speaking as a position coach, or whatever your responsibility is. If players aren't improving, then what are you there for? I mean, that's your job. If you can't make your players better, then you're not a very good coach. You're not doing a good job. So how do you make your players better? Number one, do your job. Understand what your responsibility is. Same thing for the players. What's their job? What do they have to do well? What's their role on the team? What job do they have to perform for your team to win? Number two, pay attention. So be alert, pay attention, accept coaching, understand what you need to do. But that means pay attention to little details. How the technique, okay, I'm running a route. How do I release? What's the depth? What do I do against man coverage? What do I do against zone coverage? What do I do with the quarterback scrambles? How do I run that route on a fast track? How do I run on a slippery field? And so forth. So the preparation of the attentiveness to the details is critical. If a person can't do that, again, coach, player, a person can't pay attention to the details, if they can't accept constructive criticism, if they can't accept coaching, then you're probably just going to get what you got. All right? I mean, how does a person get better if they don't accept the instruction that they need to about how to do something better than they're doing? So 2, pay attention. 3, work hard. So take the instruction that you get and apply it. And again, that means applying it in the process of preparation. Not just applying it in game conditions, but applying it, whether it's in meetings, calling out your assignment, calling out the technique that you would use on a certain play, in walkthrough. For example, our walkthroughs are always technique-oriented. So whatever your assignment is in the play and walkthrough, if I'm supposed to tackle, I'm supposed to block a defensive end, I do it with the technique that I'm going to do it with in the game, not just stand there and point at the guy, but I'm going to actually use the technique that I'm going to use in the game, so the coach can see that, yes, I know what to do, I'm going to do this properly. The guy beside me is going to do that, the guy beside him is going to do that, and so when we come out of that process, I know as a player that not only am I prepared, I'm doing my job, but I know that the guy beside me is prepared and he's doing his job too. And so is the guy beside him. So now when it comes time to perform, whether it's on a practice field or game conditions, I can go out there and be aggressive because I know that the player next to me, my teammates, are prepared and and I can count on them to do their job. All right. And then finally, the last thing that really, is part of this is teamwork, is putting the team first. So, there are times on the football field when every player has to make the best decision for the team. All right. And so the best decision for the team has to take priority over anything else, and they have to understand, how critical those decisions are. So do your job, pay attention to the details, work hard, and put the team first in your decision making, all right, and in your attitude and effort into doing your job. It's not just about doing your job because, I'm going to catch a pass. It's about doing my job because this is the route that I need to run for the team. If I'm covered and I can draw more coverage, that's going to open it up for somebody else. So, understanding those concepts. That's really what we try to build on in terms of our preparation. And then ultimately, of course, everything, as we all know, you can work all week, practice all week, the week over film, prepare as hard as you want. But in the end, what all of us see, and what the fans see, what whoever's watching, they see, whatever it is, 3 hours of football, it's called. 2.5 hours of football, however long it takes. That's what the product is. So all that happens during the week, really nobody's aware of that. The only thing they see is what happens under pressure for those, that time, Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, whenever we play. That's the evaluation period. That's the performance period. So performing well under pressure, being able to execute under pressure is obviously what it's all about. Against good competition, against other teams that are going to, create problems for you. Obviously, they're not going to make it easy. So what we try to do is to prepare our players harder in practice than what they're going to see in the game. We try to be more demanding in practice on every level, so that when we get to the game, we don't get into situations where that's the highest pressure or the toughest situation they face. Hopefully they face those same situations on the practice field. So, for example, crowd noise is going to be much louder and much harder to deal with in practice than what would be in the game. Certainly it's difficult in the game, but we want to make sure that we're working in a harder environment in practice than we are in the game. Again, same thing with, things like the balls or that type of deal. Make the balls not easy to handle, so that the ones we get in the game are easier to handle. Or, we never practice inside, so whatever the elements are, unless it's a player safety issue, whatever the elements are, we practice in them, we get used to them, and if they're bad, they're bad. When we play, if they're better than that, then we don't have to, there's never we've never practiced in the rain, we never practiced in the snow, we never practiced in, 30-mile-an-hour winds, we never practiced, when it's as hot as it's going to get in Boston, or as humid as it's going to get. We practice in all those conditions because ultimately, we're going to have to play in them, and we're never going to think twice about, well, we've never been anything like this before. It would take a lot, honestly, to put our team in that situation. So, in terms of our performance on the field, to try to prepare our team for that performance, that's what it is. And again, for me, in terms of player selection and play selection in critical situations, it's about players, not plays, and it's about tough, smart, dependable players. So, in critical situations, I would much rather go to our best players rather than to run a certain play against a certain scheme that we think this is going to be a great play against this defense, or a great blitz against this protection, or whatever it is. It might be, I'm not saying that's a bad strategy, but to me, in the end, I want to make sure that we give our best players, our toughest, smartest, and most dependable players, an opportunity to win the game. I don't want to come out of the game and feel like, we put our eggs in this other basket and it didn't work out, and we didn't give our best guys a chance to win the game for us. And again, for me, best players, talent, yes, but tough, smart, dependable. It's really where that goes. Mentioned the teamwork aspect a little bit. We're in a little bit of a different situation than many high school and college programs. In all honesty, it's very similar to a military situation, like an elite group like the Navy SEALs or the Rangers or something like that. We go to camp with 90 players, and our roster is 53. So 37 players have to be released. Same thing for every team in the league. We're not unique, but that's the environment we're in. So when we bring all our players together, we have our 90-man roster. We certainly want to create, teamwork, communication, a brotherhood, a love and respect for each other, and be able to collectively operate efficiently and as a team. But in the end, we all know that 37 of those players are not going to be with us when the regular season starts. That's building team and building that type of camaraderie and that type of atmosphere when we're not all going to be part of that when it's all said and done, creates some challenges. So some of the things that we do is just to, I would say, force the communication, to force guys to do things together, to count on each other, whether that's off-season workouts, a group of guys compete with another group of guys on, tug of war, or, a relay race type of thing, things that I got, honestly, from watching Coach Meyer and Mickey down at the University of Florida, but where you put a group of guys competing against another group of guys, and again, look, the better that each of us does, the better our team does, then whatever the reward for that is, comes accordingly. But again, things like that, to build teamwork, to force the issue with your team. We do a number of things where look, there's nobody that's less on the social media program than I am. I don't think that would be possible. I don't think it's good for our team. I don't think it's good for our players. As it relates to football, I'm not trying to make a social commentary here, but it's not really about for a player. I don't think it's really important, but however many likes or dislike likes, aren't there on like Snapface or whatever it is. How about the other 52 guys in the locker room that are with you? How about the other 52 guys that you're going out there to compete with? How do they feel about you? How do you feel about them? What's your relationship with those guys? Relative to the people that are on, daily chat or whatever it is. So we try to eliminate that. We try to focus on the team. Everything that we do is, as much as we can, is very team-oriented. So our team is about our team. All the pictures, we have a few pictures of great Patriot players, and we have a place for that. But the majority of our locker room, training room, and so forth is our team. It's our current players. It's the guys that have gone out and won for us who are on our team. It's about getting to know every team, every teammate, everybody in the organization, knowing what their job is, putting a name with a face, knowing what they do, how to address the equipment man, the equipment manager, the assistant equipment manager, the second trainer, the third trainer, whoever it happens to be, so that we all feel a camaraderie and a mutual respect for what the other person's doing in the organization, not just a player trying to do his job or a coach trying to do his job, but we kind of force those interactions together. We get rid of cell phones and have players interact together. We do, again, kind of team competitive things where a group of players, say the linebackers against the running backs, on pulling up things on a video screen, or Patriots trivia, or whatever it happens to be, to try to build that more than just letting it happen, to try to create some of those situations. Certainly there's the one die, all die concept is good, where if one person makes a mistake, the entire team, has some kind of discipline. If one guy jumps offside, then the entire team runs. I usually don't have to say anything at that point as they're running around the field. The other 30 guys that are running with the guy who caused them to run, they're handling that discipline for me. Or vice versa, if one guy does something good, then everybody gets a reward for that. So, we do things, for example, like in training camp, where we get into kind of the dog days of camp, and maybe we're kind of looking kind of looking to give a night off, but nobody ever gets anything. Everything and I think it's true for all of us. Anything you get that you earn means something to you. Anything that's just given to you, has a lot less meaning. So everything that our players get, everything our team gets, I want them to feel like they've earned it. We don't get anything for free. There's no entitlement. There's no, nobody gets anything just because, for whatever random reason, they earn it. So, for example, we're looking to give a night off in training camp. We'll take one of our offensive tackles, maybe a rookie or a young player, put them back there and do something where we have to handle the ball. A few years ago when I was coaching Matt Light, he came up to me and said, Coach, we're tired, we're sore. I think if we had a night off, tomorrow's practice would be, probably the best one you've seen in a couple of weeks. I was like, well, Matt, that's great, but, we're just not going to take nights off here. Just, give those out, get out of jail free cards, and we're just not doing that. You'd have to earn that. It's like, oh, what I got to do to earn it? No, we'll do it. What is it? So, well, how about, catching a punt? An offensive lineman never handles the ball, offensive tackle, never touches the ball. So you get back there 50 yards, the punt one, you catch it, night off. You drop it, we'll double the sprints. You good on that? That's like, let me think about that when I get back to you practice. So we get to the end of practice and call the team up. Like, all right, Matt, what do you want to do? You want to catch it, or you want to just stay with the program? He goes, I'm good, Coach. I'll give it a shot. So explain that to the team. Well, all of a sudden that was like the biggest team building thing of the year. You got guys like Kevin Falk and Troy Brown and all that trying to, in 30 seconds or less, trying to tell Matt Light how to catch a punt, how to adjust the ball, how to shade his eyes from the sun. And so Matt goes back there and he catches it. And so night off. Look, we've won a lot of big games in New England. We've won a lot of, through the years. We've got a lot of great wins, a lot of great, team victories. But, a night off in training camp is pretty close to some of our biggest wins. So, again, an example of a one die, all die, or one guy does something and everybody, benefits from it. As a team building thing, and that really, generates a lot of enthusiasm and, guys trying to pull together on that. So, just, in general, those are, I'd say as much as I can summarize, my thoughts in trying to put a team together, trying to give a team direction, what's important. And again, I'm not saying what is or isn't important in your program. We all have different preferences and things that, we can live with, and there's other things that we can't live with. We're all different on that. But I would just say at the end of the day, when you have the decision to make about the players that you're coaching or the people that you're supervising, whoever that happens to be, when you walk out of that facility, you walk out of the locker room, you've got to be happy with what they're trying to do for you. And if they're not, then, they've got to suffer, they've got to feel the consequences of that in order to get them back in the line. So, there are plenty of times when I've walked out of Gillette Stadium and look, it's either me being unhappy or an assistant coach being unhappy. I'm going to make that decision. He's going to have to live with it, right? When he becomes a head coach, he can make his decision, but I'm going to make it, and here's the way it's going to be, and, they're going to have to fall in line on that. Again, not that there isn't room for healthy discussion, there always is, but once the course has been charted, once it's been set down, this is what we're going to do, then, I expect everybody to fall in line and do it. So, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here tonight. Again, I have so much respect, and I know you do too. We all have so much respect for the game of football, for the opportunity to be involved in football and coach young student athletes who want to go out there. Look, when you sign up to play football, you're signing up for a team sport. So, you're going to give up some of your individuality. You're going to give up some of your personal preferences to be part of a team. In the team building that football has given us, with the lessons that it's taught, all of us are just, phenomenal. I mean, it's what makes us, what makes our country great, and the people that have played football, learned those team experiences, learned how to get knocked down,
how to get back up after they've been knocked down, learn how to compete day after day. And again, in football, you're competing on the practice field, you're competing the week before the game. It's not just game day, it's the competition and the preparation and the process that we all go through to be successful in those competitive situations at the end of the week. The lessons on that are just, they're awesome. They're so great, and I so appreciate what all of you do. This is the time of year when, I've been to, getting up around, 15, 16 schools, whatever it is, and then we bring players in as part of the draft process and interview them at the Indianapolis Combine and so forth. And one of the questions, some of the questions I always ask players are, what's the hardest thing you've had to overcome on the football field? How did you overcome it? Who helped you with it? Who are the people in your life that are most important to you? Who are the people that have taught you the most? What did they teach you? I want to try to get a feel for the player in terms of how he solves a problem, what's going to happen when something goes wrong, who's he going to talk to in his life, who's important to him, how he went about the process of working through a situation, whatever it was, a family situation, a football situation, an injury, whatever the problem was. And I can tell you that in almost every one of those conversations, and I've had thousands of them through my career, thousands, the high school football coach is always one of the top 2 or 3. Always one of the top 2 or 3. What I learned from my high school coach, what he helped me with, how he helped me through a difficult situation, how much I learned from him. And in a lot of cases, when I ask the player, well, do you still stay in touch with that, with that high school coach, or with that, might be a junior high school coach, do you still stay in touch with that person? A lot of times the answer is no. It's like, no, I don't. I wish I did, but this happened, that happened. I kind of lost track, whatever it is. But I'm telling you, they all appreciate it. They all never forget it. They all come back to, mom or dad, maybe a brother, all right, and then it's the high school football coach. It's the coach that helped them in their formative stages, the impact that you guys have on the players that you coach. You just don't know how strong it is. And I'm telling you, you do a great job. I respect it so much. You make our job a lot easier because when we get them, they've already been in got good guidance, good direction, and good leadership from you guys. So I thank you for that. I really do. And again, it's a great honor to be here amongst the great high school coaches, the great coaches, college coaches in the state of Ohio. There's nobody that loves football more than Ohio. I know that from being here, absolutely, at every level. From the Hall of Fame to the high school football programs to all the colleges and high school. This is a football state. That's why I love to come back here. I love being here for Pro Day with Coach Meyer and his staff, seeing Coach Shiano. This is about football to me. Look, there's a lot of other great sports at Ohio State. I respect all those. My daughter coached lacrosse here. Nothing taken away anything from that. Ohio State, it's about football. That's what it should be. So, have a great weekend. Again, this is a great staff that you'll be working with. I know many of these men personally. They're great coaches. They really do a good job. This is really one of the great programs. And I've seen all the programs in the country. This is one of the great programs, great football programs in our country. They do a tremendous job. Coach, thank you. Have a great week and a weekend. And again, thanks for having me here. Thank you.